Don't let the summer heat slow you down. Guys, Barbell Apparel is here to keep your training on track with up to 30% off their entire line of performance-driven clothing. Their lightweight and durable fabrics are engineered to keep you cool and performing at your highest level. Like Navy SEAL Chad Wright, who just ran a mind-blowing 250-mile race in Barbell's ultralight gear. Join Barbell's community of athletes who make no excuses and settle for nothing less than the best. Backed by a 365-day, no questions asked guarantee, Barbell's training gear and casual wear is built to power whatever your workouts, work days, and adventures demand. Head over to barbellapparel.com right now before this sale ends. Paulo Costa versus Chimaev. Aaron Bronstetter out of Canada, God bless him, was nice enough when he made this announcement to credit me. He said, as first reported by Chael Sonnen. That is very true. I was the first to bring you the news that it was going to be Paulo Costa versus Chimaev in October. And I spoke to both Chimaev and Paulo Costa. I mean, I had good sources here. But then that got broken up. I'm just reminding you guys of the timeline. Because we haven't seen this before. So you had a match. And there wasn't a bout agreement. That's kind of a fine line. It's actually a really important detail, whether it was signed or not. It's an important detail. It was not. But it was agreed on, and here's what we're going to do. All right. Guys are preparing, they're training, they understand this. But then that idea got broken up out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, we get an announcement that Paulo Costa is fighting with the Russian in Salt Lake. And there looked like maybe some good reason to bring Paulo to Salt Lake. That was where he had that epic match with Luke Rockhold, just to remind you. So you bring the guy back to the local crowd, there's some reasons. But it was with an opponent that nobody had discussed. There was no heat, there was no beef, that wasn't headed in a certain direction. It didn't appear, no matter what kind of fire got lit under that was going to become a #1 contenders match, just by example. So it was still the spot that we were in. And we moved forward. Then we hear, just a number of days ago, that fight, which is scheduled to go off, I mean, bell time it's next week, is broken up. It was broken up by the organization. And that was the part when I tell you we've never had this before. We've had illness and injury. We've had weight issues. We've had, whatever the excuse is, we've had the guy, the athlete, not show. Card subject to change for that very reason. We've never had an example where the promotion made a decision to break up a match. Oh, and by the way, and possibly more importantly, to then put him back where we had him to start with. Okay. There's no problem here. I think us as the community, we got to wait a little bit, but I think we got what we wanted. I think that the right decision was made. But what was said? What was said? This guy, I want to make sure you guys understand this. I want to make sure you're crystal clear on this timeline. This decision was made 3 days ago. What was said? And whatever was said with the information that they had at that time. So when Dana gets on the phone and he tells Paulo, I know you're in training camp. I know this isn't the call you wanted. But we need you over here in October with Chimaev. What was said? Was it said a financial something? Or more commonly, in a situation like this, was it said, this is a #1 contenders match? And I'm very curious about that. Because we have been under the belief, and it has been said publicly, that Chimaev, if he moves to middleweight officially, doesn't do the yo-yo, he's officially a middleweight, and he has one win, that will then make him the number one contender for the world championship. That has been said. Now, we don't lock somebody in as though they're under oath, because again, we understand those decisions and comments are made based on the information that we have at that time. And we can have different information along the way. Oh, okay, hey, we gotta redo this. We get that. We fully understand that. But I am sharing for you. I believe it. I don't see Chimaev doing multiple fights in that division, particularly over this level of guy. I mean, Jared Cannonier's name was in there for a moment. Paulo Costa. I mean, these are former number one contenders. It would seem that would be in line, but I want to remind you guys, that was 3 days ago. And why do I keep bringing that up? Because 2 days ago, apologize, 1 day ago. So 3 days ago, a phone call happens. What was said? And I'm just playing the game of if. I don't know. But it's a lot to ask. I mean, this is a big ask. One of the reasons that this has never happened before, ever, is who wants to make that ask? I mean, how do you explain that? You're in training camp. You've finished training. One of the worst things, one of the worst experiences you'll ever go through. He went through it. But you're not going to get the match. You're going to have to go through another training camp to do this match. Nobody over there at the UFC thinks that's apples to apples. I mean, I can just tell you their mentality. They are extremely fair and reasonable people. Whoever made that call before they made the call knew I'm going to have to sweeten, I'm going to have to do something. And they would have had it, and they would have presented it. They would have presented it just to be looked at as a gentleman. They wouldn't have waited for Paulo to ask. They would have said, hey, this is what we want. But if you agree, here's what, and I'm just suggesting that for you, because what if it was number one contendership, which, by the way, we believe Chimaev has that power. We've been told he has that power. Whoever the opponent, we're told that match, Chimaev, him specifically, that match, will identify number one contender. That was 3 days ago. 1 day ago, which brings us to last night, we find out that Duplessis can't do the match. And Duplessis versus Izzy is a match that everybody wants. But look at what just happened. So we're going to go do Izzy and Strickland. Izzy's the favorite. We'll do Izzy and Duplessis right on down the road. We'll get that grudge match. We'll get all this hype. We'll get everything that we had. We're just going to do it at a different time. Well, are you? Are you? Because if you've already told Paulo, who did pull out and who is going to go and who is going to make that walk against a guy who has been told if he wins, he gets to fight for the belt. What do you do with Duplessis? And when do you do it? What order are we going to go in? We can give, if we made promises, we can deliver on them, but in what order? Who has to wait? If it's Duplessis that has to wait, we're talking about a year. We're talking about a year just based on what we know right now. We're talking about a year before he's in there with Adesanya, which would be 3 wins, and with Adesanya's contracts, millions of dollars. Does he even still want to do this then? It's a very real question. Does he want to do this? Does he want to do it at 185? I mean, I'm just saying, right? It's one of those things where there is a massive domino effect. And what is going on with the Paulo match as it pertains to Chimaev? What is going on there, and how did we get to this point? When that phone call came, the first ever phone call that has been made ever on this specific topic, we are breaking up the match. We need you here. But we're willing to. Willing to what? What was said? Willing to what? Is it just a check? I mean, if I'm making too big of a deal that is a number one contenders match, if I'm wrong about that, just that was never said to Paulo, it never came up, it never even crossed our mind. Chael, you're completely wrong. Well, okay, fine. If it didn't happen in that phone call, it has been said that Chimaev's fight in October is the number one contenders match. So whether it was promised to Paulo or it wasn't, we're already been told that for Chimaev it is. What do you do with Duplessis in that situation? When do you give it to him in that situation? Or do you say to hell with it and throw your hands up? Say Duplessis and the winner of Paulo Costa and Chimaev are going to fight, right? Like, for us, the viewer, we're in a great spot. Right? We're having some fun here. It's a good time to be a fight fan. But I'm still curious what was said. I mean, I came to you a couple days ago and told you that Charles wasn't going to fight Islam in Abu Dhabi. I had great reason for saying that. Charles said he wasn't going to do it. Islam's calling out other guys. Volkanovski's saying, I'm in. Right? It's one of these things. I had great reason for believing that. But I can't tell you what matches they're going to do. I can't tell you who's number one contenders match. I can't tell you who's going to be next when it's not revealed to us. And there's more on it. There's something here. This has never happened before. You broke up a non-main event to make a non-main event. There is something more here. And when you got Paulo to agree, how?